Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This week, we take a look at new engineering tools from Block and Meta. We explore what's really going on with Deepseek and the future of AI models, plus a mix of data and new tools you can use at work, including a tool that lets you test out AI bots before you ship them. As always, if you enjoy the briefing, hit the subscribe and the like button. So first up, Google Sheets has announced some new improvements thanks to Gemini. So up until now, the Gemini integration has been pretty underwhelming if you've used it, but Google has started to gradually roll out more improvements. And this week, it has added the ability to generate insights from data directly in a Google Sheet using Google Gemini. And one of the core features involved in this is the ability to transform those insights into graphs. So graphs can now be added directly into Google Sheets, but they can only be added as images. Even though this is only a small update, it's good to see Google gradually rolling out more and more features to what was originally a pretty limited series of features available in Gemini. In other news this week, Block's CEO Jack Dorsey has released a new tool called Goose, which is designed to help engineers automate tasks. So this product runs completely locally on a user's machine, and it allows engineers to choose which LLM provider they would like to use. And it uses what it calls extensions. So these extensions allow the agents that are created locally to connect to tools like Google Drive, GitHub, and other products to perform tasks. Some of the tasks that have been outlined in the documentation include the ability to conduct code migrations, to transition from one programming language to another, to remove or add feature flags, generate unit tests for features, and others. So if your engineering teams are looking for ways to improve productivity, then this could be something worth checking out. And even if you're not an engineer, then Block says non-engineering use cases are also in the exploration phase. And as part of this announcement, Jack Dorsey tweeted that we should open source everything. In other AI engineering updates this week, during its earnings report, Meta has teased the release of its own AI engineering agent that it says can do the work of a mid-level engineer. So few details were released about this, but CEO Mark Zuckerberg says that the company is planning to release this engineering agent later this year in 2025, and he called it a profound milestone. Now, we know that tech CEOs are notorious for hyperbole, so this could just be that. But if it is as profound as Mark Zuckerberg suggests, then this could be something worth keeping an eye on as well. Other updates this week: since the release of Sonar last week, Perplexity has kept up its reputation this week of a company that ships with two new additional products. One is an assistant baked directly into Android, and the other is something called Sonar Reasoning. So this is another new API, but this time it is powered by the model that everyone's talking about, which is Deepseek. So Perplexity has taken Deepseek and used the open source version of that to build this new reasoning API that is US hosted with no training on customer data. And I'm sure you're probably feeling a little bit Deepseek fatigue right now, but it was the topic of the week and it caused chaos in the US financial markets this week. Part of the reason why is this, that it costs just over $2 to generate 1 million output API tokens via Deepseek's R1 model versus $60 for OpenAI's O1 model. So both models achieve similar results across reasoning benchmarks, which has raised fundamental questions about the true value of the models themselves. Deepseek is now the most downloaded app in the US iPhone App Store, but is this just hype? So from a product perspective, as models start to become commodities, the differences between them could become negligible, in which case it's then about the products that are built on top of these models rather than the models themselves. But for a loss-making company like OpenAI that is currently losing billions, APIs were a fundamental part of their monetization strategy. So the product teams that were using OpenAI's expensive API are probably now likely to look at alternatives like DeepSeek. And so the real winner here is the product teams that are building products on top of these cheaper models. But with the talent that OpenAI has, we can probably expect a shift away from model comparisons and more towards end-to-end products. And speaking of OpenAI's products, last week the company announced something called OpenAI Operator. And this is the focus of this week's knowledge series over on Substack. So Instacart's chief product officer described OpenAI Operator as a technological breakthrough that makes processes like ordering groceries incredibly easy. And in this week's knowledge series, we go deep into what OpenAI Operator is, how it works, the technologies that underpin the new release, and explore some use cases together. We also take a look at what the impact of something like Operator could be on the future of product UX. So if that's something that's interesting to you, head over to Substack for more information on that. Other pieces of innovation worth keeping on top of this week is the new release from generative AI startup Pika. So Pika rose to fame a few months back through its innovative creative videos, which allowed users to create images of them being sliced as cakes or transformed into balloons. And the latest version of this is version 2.1, which now includes full HD output, and introduces a new concept that is called ingredients, where users can upload their own personal images and incorporate these into videos. So if you're considering using generative AI videos as part of your marketing materials or even just your internal comms, then the latest version from Pika could be worth checking out. So now let's take a look at some tools you can use this week. First up is something called Base Dash. And Base Dash describes itself as the AI native business intelligence platform, which is really just a fancy way of saying that they focus on allowing users to generate charts and dashboards in natural languages. So what this does is it allows you to connect different sources, over 550 different sources, and without using any SQL, you can transform the data from those sources into pretty nice looking chart visualizations. And this is all done through a natural language interface. So you can say, well, I want to see the top users from the last month. And then with a little bit of back and forth, it will then create a chart for you. So we're starting to see data visualization really become a core use case for generative AI products like this. Another tool worth checking out is something called Coval. And this week, Coval announced that it has raised over $3 million to bring self-driving car simulation to AI voice and chat agents. So essentially what this does is it allows you to simulate the behavior of your AI chatbot before you release it by conducting a series of different scenario tests with your agent. And then off the back of that, it spits out this report which shows you how your bot has performed across areas like agent clarity, how correct the information it shared is, how good it was at achieving goals, and plenty of others. So if you're currently working on developing an AI agent of your own and you're trying to figure out how best to test your bot, then Coval could be worth checking out as well. And the final tool this week is something called Taboo. That is a combination of the words tab and boo. So if you're somebody who likes to boost your productivity, this is a pretty unique way of doing it. So this is a browser extension, and it allows you to upload the websites that you'd rather not be visiting whilst you're at work, so things like Instagram or Twitter, and it discourages you from using them by adding jump scares. So if you're somebody who finds yourself doom scrolling at work when you'd rather be a little bit more productive, then Taboo could be for you. Now let's take a look at some data and some trends. So first up, the crypto resurgence is being reflected in new figures released by Coinbase. So this week, the company confirmed that deposits on Coinbase have grown 197% year on year in November, and the number of new users increased over 700% in November and over 475% in December. And new users deposited an average of $345. Alongside this, Stripe has started to default users onto its stablecoin offering. And one of the product managers from Stripe this week announced that customers from over 90 different countries have now paid with stablecoins through Stripe via an invoice or in checkout. And it's only been 3 months since Stripe relaunched its pay with crypto functionality. So this is leading some to suggest that USDC and other stablecoins could become more widespread, particularly as AI agents start to interact with the web. Some are arguing that the default currency for AI agents could be a USDC style stablecoin. So if you're currently looking at different alternative payment methods, then a stablecoin could be an option for you. In other data this week, the latest PwC AI report was released this week, and this report contains all kinds of different information relating to AI in the workplace. But one of the most profound predictions that is made in the report is the suggestion that AI will cut product development life cycles in half. So it says in this report that AI in R&D can reduce time to market by 50% and lower overall costs by 30%. 73% of executives say they'll use generative AI to make some changes to their business model. And if these predictions are correct, then we could start to see some profound innovation being released from product-led companies as the costs of developing new products reduces thanks to AI. Speaking of the costs, another report worth checking out this week is the latest report from App Figures. In this, they show that more than 1.4 billion was spent on AI apps in 2024. And they project that spending is set to grow to more than $2 billion in 2025, and 64% of this spend so far is from customers based in the US, and ChatGPT accounts for a massive 44% of global spending on AI apps. It also suggests that 85% of ChatGPT users are male. So given that Deepseek is now #1 in the App Store, it'll be interesting to see what that does to the dominance of ChatGPT. As we mentioned last week, awareness of ChatGPT is now at record highs, particularly in younger cohorts. So can an app like Deepseek really displace ChatGPT, given just how much brand equity the company has built? Earlier, we mentioned the earnings report update from Meta, but one piece of data which might interest you is that Meta's Reality Labs has recorded its highest ever revenue. So for Q4 last year, the company posted $1.083 billion for that quarter, which is now officially its highest ever revenue quarter. But when you compare it year on year, that's only a 1% increase year on year. And given that this division is losing around $5 billion a year, then I'm not quite sure why this is being presented as a success. And finally, I'll leave you with this stat which I learned about this week, which actually shook me to the core, which is that 82% of German companies still use fax machines. And not only that, but fax machines are so widespread that some companies have started to build AI features into them. So in this example, users are able to fax questions on relevant topics for their business and get a response. So AI in Germany is set to be used to categorize faxes and forward them to the correct departments in businesses. In a week where the EU Commission launched its new Compass initiative to try to stimulate growth, and other member states like Estonia launched the ability to get divorced in just a few clicks, it does look like the German economy still has a lot of work to do to catch up with some of its European peers, let alone the rest of the world, when it comes to digitizing its infrastructure. And on that note, I'll leave it there. We'll be back next week with another briefing.